So to start, I just want to introduce again both of them. You already probably know them, but Song-Ming is like a Singaporean artist who lives both in Singapore and Berlin. He's been exhibited internationally. His works, his focus is always usually in sound and music. He just mentioned to me today that he sees his role as a synthesizer, as an artist. And what's unique is that he's interested in this study of sound and music and represent them in visual culture because not everyone is doing it. So he's not the type of guy who follows the trend. He's a young artist award recipient from the National Arts Council. He also received the President's Young Artist Award and was also a finalist in the Sovereign Arts Prize. He majored in literature, but he will tell you more how he landed in this practice. But he also obtained a master's and MA in oral and visual studies from the Goldsmith University, and most recently, now both in the Children's Biennale and in Venice Biennale. So really, really proud to have him with us. Really happy that he was able to accept our invitation to be in the Children's Biennale. And then Mark Justiniani. He's known as in the art scene in the Philippines and abroad in this artist socialist movement from the 80s to the 90s, throughout the 90s. He was part of a number of collectives, Akpai, Saling Pusa, and Sanggawa. He's also here with one of his collaborators, Joy Malyari, also an artist, to acknowledge her. And also now his work has been at the National Gallery, evolving in the last 3 years. It was first commissioned for the Children's Biennale, the first edition, which is Firewalk of Embers, a response piece to the basement one, the excavation site of that connects it to the building, so it's a bridge. But then because of its relationship, the impact it's had on the space and the response of the public, Chagall decided to continuously work with him, and now we are on the 3rd year and the final year of this work. It has taken on different forms in the last 3 years. So it was first Firewalk, a Bridge of Embers, and then last year during the Children's Festival, it became Passages and Bridges. It also gave birth to a sister work at the Staatliches Kunstsammlung in Dresden for another Children's Biennial, Kinder Biennale in Dresden, which is a well piece, and then now it is called Stardust, Soaring Through a Sky's Embrace. So I think now, without further ado, I'd like to, Song-Ming to share more about. So both of them will share about 10 to 15 minutes. We have about an hour today. So after their sharing, then we will have the question and answer. Yeah, Song-Ming.
I think I'll talk a little bit about the inspiration for the work that I'm showing at the Children's Biennale.
So both of them had to respond to the theme of embrace, and we asked them what it means to them, what it meant to them as a child, and what it means to them now as an adult. Maybe also both of them are also parents, so you translated this work, to welcome the public.
Now it's except from a work called The Piece for 350 Onomatopic Molecules. It's actually one of the earliest artworks that I've made, hence the slightly pretentious title. Onomatopic molecules obviously being ping pong balls, right? And it comes from, I think, my interest at that time as a younger person in my early 20s, being interested in rock music. So very clear what you see is electric guitars connected to amplifiers and a drum set. And what happens is still the same process mechanically, I think, that you've got like of balls, and it just really works like what you see downstairs. So actually, a lot of what I do is to break down boundaries between, let's say, well, I think first of all, to make connections, because I was just telling Vanini that I see myself as a synthesizer, to synthesize the worlds of the oral and the visual, but at the same time also, as you can tell from the very kind of rock or punk language, and for it to cross over into what we would normally consider high art, or contemporary art. And also, in this case, for the audience to become performers. So I think that is also something that's quite interesting. And I would say that, so basically what you see downstairs really just comes from this, which I made, which I first presented in 2003. The next work that I'm going to talk about is Silent Walk. It's a really simple work. It's just a group exercise, actually, which has now been adapted into supersonic walk, which it sounds like a very souped up, jazzed up version. But this work really just revolves around a set of instructions that I've written, which is for, usually, of course, I present it as part of an exhibition with an institution or a museum, and what happens is that the group of audience members would just go around the immediate environment of the institution and remain silent, turn off their mobile devices, and just listen to the sounds of the environment. And I think on paper, this sounds like something which is extremely exciting, but usually the feedback from people who have gone on this walk is that hear things that they don't normally think existed, that they're not normally aware of. And the other thing is that people also tend to hear very different things. So we could be on the same walk, but everyone's actually hearing very different things. The other thing that was interesting with this work, right, is actually to explore group dynamics, because part of the instructions is that everybody is actually the leader of the group 5 minutes. So it's actually like an exercise in democracy. So let's say we start going out and then all of us are in this group. Maybe I'm the leader for the first 5 minutes, and then I can walk in which direction I want, provided that it's safe, as long as you don't go into the middle of a road and stay there for 5 minutes, I think it's fine. And you can also pause as you wish. And after 5 minutes, right, I'll just tap somebody else on the shoulder, and this person now becomes the leader. Somebody taps you on the shoulder, and then you raise your hands, and everybody knows now you're the leader. So by the end of the group, right, we actually don't know where we are going to end up. But we are moving along in a group where sort of everybody gets a chance to dictate or lead and have a say in determining the outcome. And of course, as you can tell from the photographs, right, you can walk through really different kinds of spaces, both open spaces and closed spaces, underground spaces. And if you walk through a space like this and you hear someone talking in a glass room with very hard surfaces, you realize that there's a lot of reverberation. So going through all these spaces, you really hear very different things: construction sounds, traffic noises, and going to the MRT, and then you hear all the blips and things, and then all the things that you might hear underneath a HDB block, in the back alley. So this work has actually been presented in quite a lot of different cities. We've done it in Hong Kong, we've done it before in Berlin, we've done it in Paris, we've done it in Singapore. And it's also something that I'm completely not precious about. Like, now you guys know about this thing, right? If you just go and do it, you can do it. In that sense, completely democratic. You don't have to spend money to purchase this, and you can even do it on your own. I don't want to sound too didactic or whatever, but it's really nice to be out, just to kind of walk around and listen to stuff and see stuff without pretty much looking at a screen, So the third work that I'm going to talk about is Be True to Your School, which is something that Vanini and I also discussed about showing or adapting for the Venice Biennale. This work that I made in Japan in 2010 on a residency at Arcus in this town called Moria. And what I did was, because the residency institution, my studio, and the residency's office is actually housed in a former primary school, which has then now been converted into studios and screening rooms and things. I thought making a kind of a site-specific work by getting in touch with all the former students of the school. So we managed to bring about 20 of them back. And then the art basically consists of me asking these former students, adults, to try to recall their school song and to sing it in one take on the camera, sort of expecting that the song will break down at some point because of natural lapses in our memory. So this is an excerpt or a preview of the video in which we've got like different singers singing different verses. Okay.
はい。
こうかね。
わかんない。ワンコーラスしかわかんない。
つくばの山を仰ぎては高き王のが理想とし
学びの道にいそしめ
天智四百の生きたかしじゃないかな。2番最初と最後は分かんないけどね。
最初と最後でまずいです。
フィニッシュ。ダメ。もう一回取り直すから。忘れちゃうね。
What's amazing is that all of them, even though they're singing it separately, they're singing it in the same pitch, which means that actually the song is really burnt into their memory. It's a great song, by the way. And then when I show it on 4 separate RT monitors, and then you have to listen to them on headphones, which is really more like a conversation and getting to know all these people on a very individual and intimate level. And then in a separate room, right, I would show a projection basically actually of me performing with the whole group of them. Because I also had this feeling that if you put the whole group of them together, then they can piece together the lyrics like a jigsaw puzzle, and that's what we actually managed to do. And then because I've heard the song so many times being sung on camera, I joined them on the glockenspiel, sort of like the piano accompaniment, you know. So it was actually quite fun. Okay. Then the very last work that I would talk about now is, should I talk about Bieber? Justin. Okay.
This is a generational.
This is, yeah, I don't know. I not how many people here will be Justin Bieber, but let's see. There's another work that I made, which is one of the drier works. Because I was also just telling Vanini that some of my works tend to be very colorful, you know, like downstairs. But this is just one of those very dry minimalist ones. So what I did was I found Justin Bieber's autograph on the internet. So obviously some Justin Bieber fan passed it to Justin Bieber to sign. And then I tried about 2 months, or I tried to imitate his autograph. So beginning with the top 3 you can see is a lot more jagged and edgy. That traces of my own handwriting. And then as you can see on the left side, his own handwriting is a lot curvier. And from the start, it just looks like nonsense. And then, of course, you do it step by step. You do it like J, and then the JU, and then the JUS, JUST. This is just scrap paper, basically. And then Justin, and then you get to the B, and then the BI, BIE, BIEB, BIEBE, BIEBR. And then finally, you put two together, so Justin Bieber, Justin Bieber, Justin Bieber, Justin Bieber, Justin Bieber. So every day for 15 minutes, I do this in my studio, Justin Bieber, Justin Bieber. I have one whole stack of A4 paper. Then after that, I tried to sign on, calendar paper, which is laminated and more waxy. Because in the end, right, the idea, of course, is not to just have these practice sheets. The idea really is to reach a payoff, which is to sign it on these posters. And yeah, there you go. So you got a poster. And then next to it, I have a 35mm slideshow where, it's all the slides of my practice. So you also, and then it goes on auto run, and then you also get this sense of time passing. And then 2 minutes, every 2 seconds you hear this click, and then you hear this click, and then you hear this click. And then just next to it, you see the frame poster. I obviously only went to sign on it when I thought that my autograph was close enough to the original. And if all else fails, if I don't make enough money as an artist, I can do this as a sideline.
We actually really seriously considered this, but maybe this tells you about the demographics of the people who work at the gallery. It's like, when I said, oh, let's do Justin, and they said, well, kids nowadays don't copy anymore the autographs. And I said, but as a child, I did that. They said, oh, which year are you born? So,
I don't want to put bad ideas into the minds of the young here, but I forged my parents' autographs on more than a couple of occasions. Okay, it is completely necessary. And I will understand if my kid does that too. If you've got time. Okay, so the last one is just going to be this trailer of Recorder Rewrite, which is the film that we're showing in Venice right now. I worked with 20 children, one of whom is here today, and a crew of 40 to make a 3-channel film installation. So it's a 5-day process in which for the first 2 days we did a music workshop. On the first day, we taught them extended techniques on the recorder, and then on the second day, improvisation exercises for them to create a symphony in 4 movements. And we shot it at the Singapore Conference Hall, which is a very significant location that's important for our exhibition. And then on the third day, we brought them to the conference hall, and then we did some choreography with them and for them to rehearse, and on the 4th and the 5th day we shot. So basically, again, the idea really is to take something that is very mundane, like Justin Bieber or just experimental sounds or school songs, and try to turn it into something that is meaningful and complex, I guess, or nuanced and cool at the same time.
What do you think is going to happen during the film shoot?
I don't know. Off camera. I also don't know. So I was there.
It's such a big instrument, it sounds really good like that. Tenors have, altos and sopranos have.
everyone. Passing over the mic to Mark now.
I begin something and then somewhere along the way, I let the images do the talking. I'd like to this talk with an image of a man who is trying to embrace the wind. It is a thing that I did years ago as an artist. I've been dealing with this issue of weight for a long time, the weight of living in the world and longing for freedom. Kind of freedom which could either be psychological, societal, spiritual. Here, the image shows a man with several arms embracing him, and these arms could be his or his loved ones, of ghosts who are protecting him, not too tightly, but just enough to give him shelter from nature's forces, which are more powerful than he is. Here, there's a kind of acceptance that he is a very small part of a larger scheme of things, of a larger universe. The title of this drawing is Yakap, which means embrace. If you invert Yakap, it says Pakai, which means intent or intention. We study in order to survive and to live. It is a kind of miracle that we are able to stay afloat in spite of life's challenges. As students, we hold on to what we know, hope that lessons will guide us to where we are going. We try to conjure things like provide answers to the biggest questions, the hard questions like, how did we come to be? Why are we here? Where are we going? As we are doing that, we have dreams of becoming weightless, to be relieved of life's burdens, and we can escape with our minds. We can let go of logic and travel to the heavens and be swept by the wind. Watawat means flag. This image came to me in a dream. As soon as I woke up, I made a rough sketch and painted it after. It is an image about our national hero, Jose Rizal. He was an eye doctor. He's using his lens to see more clearly and holds an emblem of an American eagle on top of the flagpole. Farther into the horizon is Andres Bonifacio, our national hero, carrying a bolo knife and reading Rizal's book on a paper boat. We look at the world through lenses. This is a study which I did in 2017 for a show in Jakarta. I wanted to do an observatory, a huge telescope which points to the stars. This idea was a development of an earlier piece which I did in 2010. This was the one in Jogja, and this was in 2010. There's a mirror inside this telescope which is angled 45 degrees. It has a hole. You see the ceiling. And on the ceiling, there's another mirror which is 45 degrees, and another mirror angled at 45 degrees, and another one which is sail-like mirror on a boat. And as you're looking at the telescope, you see yourself, you see your back, actually. So we see ourselves when we look through the telescope. If we look farther to the skies, we see our past and our origin. The farthest that we can see during daytime is the sun. It takes 8 minutes for the sun's light to reach our eyes. So we're looking at the past for like the 8 minutes from the past. And at nighttime, although it is dark during the night, even farther, the nearest star at night is about 4 light years away. So you see 4 years old, some are 1,000 years old, 100 years old. You see it at the same time, different time frames, different pasts that you see in one frozen moment. So that's something, right? And there are an infinite number of stars in the night sky. There are more than 100 billion stars in the Milky Way. And there are more than 100 billion galaxies in the known universe, only in the known universe. And there's more to that. And there's much, much more. So, no matter how small we are, we think about existence, invent meanings, and we invent art. No matter how small, we give life value. Some things which are material are important to us. A lot of things which are non-material are also important. This is a work I did in 2002 for a show entitled 2002. It's a palindrome. A palindrome is a word that spells the same when it is written backwards. Here, the word choice is cut in half. The bottom half is real, and the other half is just a reflection. It combines reality with illusion, matter and non-matter. Half is solid and has weight, and half is massless, and it completes the word choice. So speaking of mass, it's a replica of the Large Hadron Collider in Geneva, Switzerland, and its function is to find a very, very small particle. This is the largest ever science experiment made by humanity. It's the most expensive, involves more than 10,000 scientists, and it's the largest machine ever made by man. Look for a very, very small particle, and that particle gives us mass, or it's responsible for giving us mass. And this particle, there's a field, a Higgs field. And each particle there is called the Higgs boson, or the Higgs particle, but more popularly it is known as the God particle, because couldn't find, they say, the goddamn particle, and the media call it the God particle. So more known as God particle. Every particle, when it passes through the Higgs field, it causes a drag. And this interaction between the Higgs field and that particle, it depends on the interaction, and if the interaction is stronger, then you have more mass. If it is less, then you have less mass. Light does not interact with the Higgs field. So light is the fastest thing in the universe because it goes straight through. So that machine found the Higgs boson. It's called the Cathedral of Science because it's, well, one of the best, or the best ever discoveries. On the other side of the world is a cathedral of faith. So in this work, the Cathedral of Faith and Cathedral of Science are working together. I'm sorry, the video's not, is it working? Oh, it's moving, okay. The work is 6 feet in height and 4 feet in width. Its depth is 9 inches. So it's back to back. On the other side is the collider. On the other side is the cathedral. We worked on it for about 4 months, and almost everything is handmade, hand-painted, handcrafted. And underneath, there's a library in the basement. So we created a library, and it's a repository of knowledge, spiritual knowledge. And on the other side is a different kind of knowledge. So on the other side, we have the Large Hadron Collider. It's at CERN. It is where the internet was created. They're discovering something, or a lot of things. Now, after they found the Higgs boson, their problem is they don't know what to find, what else to find. So I think they're now looking for dark matter. So yeah, it's the Cathedral of Faith and the Cathedral of Science sharing the same space, the same slice of space, and share infinities. In 2017, we also did our first like very immersive piece of work. It's called The Settlement. It was shown in a football field called the Second Garden in the University of the Philippines. And a lot of people lined up to see the work. It took 4 hours for some people to see the work, to have a minute experience of the work. Days after we finished this work, we started with Firewalk. And the bridge, the first plan was to do maybe an 18-foot bridge or a 20-foot bridge or 30. And then it got longer and longer, and it reached 50 feet. Now it's 3 feet. These are the initial studies. See, it's not that long. And here are the components. And that's the first, like, not really detailed, but overall study of the work which was presented to the National Gallery. And we were doing this at home, and this is how it looked like. And at night, and the last night, Manila, it looked like this. The next day, we shipped it to National Gallery. And in National Gallery, here we are loading the mirror carefully. And that's how it looked like. And the opening 2 years ago. And the next year for the Children's Festival, we added a few things. We changed the middle posts and added floor pieces and 5 wall pieces. We can discuss it later if we have time. Let's view in. The study. That's how it looks like. And we also did a piece in Dresden. It's like the sibling of Firewalk, but instead of doing a bridge which goes over the water, this is a well, and it holds water, but talks about similar thing about the life experience, about being a child towards adulthood, and about facing the inevitable that we're all going to pass. So, yeah, as well. These are the initial studies for the work in Venice. It's called Archipelago for the Island Weather Project. And the earlier studies, which were angular, rectangular, and then it slowly became more biomorphic. It took 4 containers to ship everything and 50 crates, and we worked on it for about 4 months, shipped it for 45 days, and then assembled it for a month in Venice with a team of assistants. One last image, this was yesterday, for the 3rd edition of Firewalk. We removed the wall pieces and replaced it with one bigger piece in the middle. And it's mandala-like. It looks like galaxies. It can also look like a jellyfish of sorts. And it's made up of two counter-rotating disks that merge and disperse and disassembles and then converges again. And through time, when you see those patterns, they're beautiful. You know? This interplay of assembling and disassembling form are beautiful. So, yeah, it talks also about chaos and order, the way the universe is, and the way we are also. So, yes, thank you.
Thank you, Song-Ming and Mark. I just wanted to jump to the Q&A. There was like something interesting for both of them when we called them to respond to the theme, and it seems that both of them were immediately very clear, like what they wanted to do. Song-Ming, you immediately returned with this. You mentioned you wanted to do 350 molecules for the Biennale. And then Mark, when he first visited the space, he immediately drew a bridge. And yeah, something quite, yeah, for this particular group, for this 13 artists, most of them came here. They had like a very clear response to the space. And I was just wondering, like, what were the key considerations, knowing your practice, that your starting point is always with sound. And while you have worked with children, you've never really developed, this is the first time you're working, well, you've worked with children and like topics that involve children somehow and sound. What were the key considerations for you to translate your work, welcoming to this piece? And then probably for Mark, I know your work is more universal and necessarily you don't have to translate it for children and so on. So yeah, maybe first some, yeah.
For me, it was, I think what I wanted to do was to focus on keeping it very, very simple, because it's kids. And I mean, although I also have to say that I don't want to make a work that is just not purely mechanical, you know. Obviously, the choice of having many colors, having sound, having a very kind of physical way of interacting, and having a kinetic element is important. I think the feedback that I got is that it looks appealing, it sounds appealing, and Karen, she said that you literally have to peel your kids off the floor to get them, to get them out of the room. So yeah, I would know that it's a wonderful compliment. Yeah, so for me, it's just about really keeping it as simple as possible while still somehow letting the installation do its work by keeping the children there or by drawing the children in. Yeah, so that was fundamentally my concern.
For me, it's for the children. I think it's automatic if you see something amusing or an illusion. They amused. You hold their attention. But for the adults, it's to awaken the child in them too, and to do that, there's fear involved, and the combination of fear and something beautiful can hold a person. You know, contrasting images like the idea of wanting to be weightless, visually or weightless, but the other senses say that you still have your weight with you. So that tweak in your senses also holds the audience. And since I cannot let the audience fly, then visually I can push the earth downward, and the audience can retain their positions. So I think it's kind of odd, and after you hold the audience, the goal is to let them look at the details, because the details are saying something else also. It reinforces something that we go through life, the lessons that we've learned. The idea was to create a ritual or a sort of a initiation rite. You do the firewalk, and the firewalk is from birth to building yourself, the coming of age, and then acceptance. And you're moving on shaky ground when the ground is curving, and then you go back to where you came from. So that's a cycle of life.
So, was there any way that the work in Venice also influenced your work here, or vice versa? I guess I'm asking in terms of like colors. I know it said that it came because of it's the right time to use the colors. Well, usually they're very quiet. Your pieces are quite.
It really depends. I am quite conscious that I make very different kinds of works, and also across different kinds of media, and then some of them are quite ephemeral, like live works. There's performance lectures, walks, things like that. And at the same time, there's film or video, which is based media, and at the same time, it can be two-dimensional or three-dimensional stuff. So for this, it was a combination of that, and we generally also how I try to make solo shows, this kind of variety, and when can come together to create a certain kind of synergy. I think with regards to the Children's Biennale, it's really about focusing on who my audience is. And actually, to be honest, when I'm showing in Venice or when I'm showing anything anywhere, I'm also thinking of who the audience is. But I think more importantly, sometimes you also have to make the decision about which kinds of audiences to isolate. Because, for example, I'm also finishing a commission for the LTA right now, so it's a public artwork, and we're making it for the commuters, and there are all sorts of restrictions. So, actually, decisions can be easy when there are restrictions. It helps artists, I think, to make decisions. And for me, actually, for Venice, it was quite important that not only it not only has to be representative of Singapore, but it also has to have resonance with the international audience. So at the back of my mind, I was always very conscious about that. And similarly with the Children's Biennale, there really is that kind of, I would say, focus on who the audience is. So I wouldn't necessarily say that they have influenced each other, but they did kind of also come out at the same time. And I think one of the recurring positive feedback that I got from the Venice show is that they felt that it was light, nuanced, and that you could get stuck in there for a long time. So I think maybe that would be the sort of parallel in terms of experience. Yeah.
Mark, maybe you want to share about how this grew up. I would say how the work matured from one space and then also traveling outside of Singapore. I mean,
We had a show in Jogja in 2015, and it was a short piece. We liked it because it was the whole, and the glass was at the same level as the floor, and the idea was to create something excavated. But the glass we had was 5 mm, and somebody walked on it. A Singaporean walked on it. And we've thought about doing thick glass panes, but just couldn't find a supplier for it. And finally, we found, we had a friend who works with glass, and he was able to do it. We did it with Settlement, the box that we showed in the field. And the next project was Firewalk. Actually, we were thankful for the person who walked on the glass because it made us rush with the technology. And first, at this long stretch you can walk is Firewalk. And it was tested with an audience, I think, I don't know how many have walked on it, maybe 1 million? Yeah.
It's in the second year here, so easily.
So if it's hundreds of thousands or 1 million, then it can hold that many people. And for the Venice piece, we've done shaped glass already, which you can walk on. So the shaping of the glass and the metal was very difficult for the fabricators. It was very difficult for us, the walls, the images, because it's easier to do it rectangular. Yeah, as far as the piece in Venice, it was very local. We didn't think about trying to be international. It's about local issues, but I think at a certain layer it hits the audience too. And once you see images like balconies, or there are general images wherein you can still get what the work is trying to say. So yes, with Firewalk, I think the Stardust, it will take a while, maybe several walks to really understand what it's saying. We only know the bookends, which are debris, or rocks and meteorites. But the middle part, it will take some time for it to register.
We have a few minutes for questions. Would anyone like to ask the two artists a question?
Hi, congratulations. I saw of works in Venice also. So just a question about making art for children, because that's a slightly different audience than Venice, which was, a lot more art connoisseurs. Did you have to take in consideration about the children, and how do you do that? I mean, how do you use your practice and try to sort of change it, try to get a message across to an audience that's younger, or certainly the future audience, art audience?
Yeah, I'll go first. For me, it's quite intuitive, and generally in my work, I keep things simple, and generally I don't try to put in things which are not necessary. And a lot of my work is about the editing process, where I'm like, I just have to be very strict with myself and say, is this necessary? If not, goes out. And you see what's left, and is what is left enough to carry the work for the audience? And for me, you can easily describe my work here as just colors and shapes. And that's pretty much it. And I just thought this is what is necessary for children. Yeah.
The very first artwork that I saw as a kid was inside a chapel in our hometown in Victoria's, Negros Occidental. It's done by Alfonso Osorio, famous artist. And it depicts at the altar a Jesus figure, but brown skin with psychedelic or like flame-like images at the back. And it's kind of scary. It's called The Angry Christ. It's more famously known as Angry Christ. Uh, that was my introduction to art. And the combination of fear and beauty is kind of a formula that I've retained in my work, I think. And that work, I still remember it well. So I didn't really think about the audience as kids or adults, or I just thought about an audience. And similar to how I reacted to Angry Christ when I was very, very young. I think it will stay in their memories, and when they're older, they will remember the experience and they will appreciate the work more, maybe. So, yeah.
I have a burning question, maybe for, can I ask Melinda a question since she's, because since this is the children's Biennale, and or maybe the mom of Melinda, if or Melinda can say
Belinda.
something on, because she's both in Venice and somehow through the film, and also she experienced the work. I think this is a more genuine testimony than any of us.
What's your question?
Oh, what has been your experience like working with Song-Ming as an artist, and also what has been your experience when you actually entered his installation here?
Are you happy to answer the question?
It was fun, and it's very rare to have an experience in front of the camera. So I thought that Mom asked me, would you like to be going for this thing? I felt very lucky. Recorder? I haven't seen a bass recorder before. Yeah. Yes. I only saw the soprano, but the rest, like the tenor and the bass, it was really huge, and I didn't know that it had buttons on it. Yeah. The bass recorder was actually quite large. It was under my chin. But the tenor was slightly smaller. It's still hard for me to place because it's straight. It doesn't curve the bass does.
Do you like the Chance Operations?
Yes, it's very fun. Yeah, especially. Yeah, I know. I saw. When we threw the ball would hit the pipes, and then the pipe will make a very pleasant sound for me. And it goes. And when it was time to go, I felt beat. Yeah. I want to go inside, but cannot.
Yeah, so anyway, thank you, Melissa. I think Melissa should have the last, Melinda should have the last words, since this is the Children's Biennale, and thank you for your comment that it made a pleasant sound. I was really struck when Song-Min mentioned also that his work is like you hear it before you see it. This is quite the same comment that Patricia Chen left on Instagram, an art critic in Singapore, about Mark's work, that speaking about the whole of Children's Biennale, that actually you hear it before you see it, because you hear the kids and the parents and everyone else getting excited about this. And at least through this, like if you hear this laughter, this is somehow we have fulfilled the big part of our role as an institution, as a national gallery, and having succeeded in pushing the artists to go outside their comfort zone and welcoming others to their work. So on that, I would like to thank Ang Song-Min and Mark Justiniani, and to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.